Life picked up speed in the 1950s, and Vermont's fascination with the automobile kept pace. Get yourself a set of wheels and see where they'd take you. Hell drivers thrilled crowds at the Champlain County Fair, and Vermonters learned to race stock cars at Thunder Road.
When you're in the stock car racing business at the beginning, you learn how to do it, and local people learned how to race and how to drive and how to build the cars, which was, you know, the toughest part.
They were just dirt tracks. Most of them were old half-mile fairground track, horse tracks. You get off the track, you'd run into a tree stump.
Taking to Vermont's rural back roads was quickly becoming a common rite of passage.
There were always a lot of vehicles around, old pickups and trucks. Most of us were driving by the time we were 10, probably, you know, driving up around the hills and the fields. And we're talking about village boys. They all wanted to drive a log truck or drive a lumber truck. All of a sudden, everybody had an automobile, and they liked to have their weekly outing.
It was really the golden age of cars. They were big and they were flashy and they were gas guzzlers, but at 16 cents a gallon, who cared?
My grandfather was associated with a Ford dealer here in Burlington. I think he was the first Ford dealer in the state. So when I turned 16, he gave me a 40 Ford. So I was like the Duke of Paducah with that, because not many kids had cars. So I became very popular very quick, because I had wheels. And then lots of time after school, we'd go down and meter hang, they call it. Just get down and watch the girls.
If I was very careful, I could push the car out of the garage and allow it to catch as it went down the driveway so that you couldn't hear the starting motor. And then off we go, pick up a load of friends and go up and down Church Street.
Church Street, of course, was open to traffic, and it was the Burlington version of cruising.
Oh, Kelly's was a good one. There was Coleman's Pharmacy, which was next to the Flynn Theater. That was a big hangout.
All of these places had old-fashioned soda fountains, and you'd go in for a chocolate Coke or a cherry Coke.
And after school, that place was packed. They were big in Cokes, lemon Cokes. Cherry Cokes, I think, were the most popular. Ice cream cones for a nickel. Big ones, too.
Like the drugstore soda fountain before it, the roadside fast food stand became a cultural icon in the 1950s. One of the earliest and most successful was Al's French Fries. In 1948, Jen and Al Rusterholz began an entrepreneurial French fry venture based on the boardwalk fries they'd so often enjoyed on the Maine coast. The business began as a mobile snack wagon operating during the summer months.
We bought a huge kettle, and we were in business, peeling and slicing all potatoes by hand, trying to make French fries from little or nothing.
Al and Jen soon graduated to a permanent fast food stand.
Al and our first customer at our first snack bar in Essex Junction in 1948. This is opening day at that same snack bar in 1948. It's Al and I and 4 of our workers. And there's our sign as we designed it. You know, it's like the picture of a cup of French fries. But you'll probably notice it F-R-Y-S. Of course, it's not grammatically correct, but I thought it would be appealing and different, and I never was a conformist.
Al's would eventually move to the South Burlington location it would occupy for the remainder of the century, as Burlington's city outskirts grew up around it.
Ours was a home-style fare. We had no gimmicks. We put out good food. We had courteous service, and we had decent prices. Nothing flashy, just down-to-earth, home-style.
Eating on the road was second in importance only to reaching your destination. In pre-interstate highway Vermont, getting there could be a real challenge.
There were no big highways at all. It was just Route 7, north and south. Nothing east and west to speak of. As we used to say, if we wanted to go to Maine, just couldn't get there from here.
It's an old but meaningful joke to most Vermonters who drove state roads before 1958, when the first section of interstate went in. Until that time, those inaccessible parts of the state had been, for the most part, the exclusive domain of natives and a few lucky summer visitors.
Well, I used to take the kids fishing. I got them started liking the outdoors, getting out into the woods, and I taught them how to shoot and how to hunt.
If you spent the summer or fall in Vermont, you came to know a few things about the local customs and vernacular. One test was knowing the difference between a camp and a summer house.
It's not a camp unless it's either a deer camp or on a lake. Otherwise, it's a summer house. So, no matter what it is or how elegant it is, if it's on a pond, it's a camp. And if it's a deer camp, it's a camp. Back in the 50s, you planned everything around deer season, and God help you if your car broke down during deer season, because there's no damn way you were going to get it fixed, you know. All the guys took off and went hunting.
Long before the ski boom of the late 1950s, the big annual invasion of vacationers took place during the warm months. They were known as the summer people.
These summer people, they come the day after the water's turned on in May and leave the day before it's turned off in October.
In Highgate, a new style of summer resort was born. Francis and Edward J. Tyler took a chance and bought lakeshore woods and meadows in an area Mr. Tyler had always loved.
My husband remembered this place so fondly. He said, I wonder if by the slightest chance that we can buy down at Highgate. And that was absolutely the bottom of the Depression.
They bought a running farm and 6 old cottages, an abandoned mineral spa inn called the Franklin House, and started a resort geared to a special clientele.
We didn't know where we'd be able to get business, so we had a little conference, and we tried to think who it was that nobody else would want. And we decided it was families. So we started right out in the beginning. We advertised only for families right from the start, and we don't want them to come unless they have children.
Just as Vermont's tradition of hospitality grew among out-of-staters, the locals were discovering places to create their own memories. Clary's Bayside Pavillion was a magnet for Burlington area fun seekers willing to drive out of town for an evening on Mallett's Bay.
Bayside had the roller skating. They had Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey out there, Louis Satchmo Armstrong. Oh, we used to see all those shows out there. Those guys were great. We used to draw them right in out there.
We link events in our lives to the music that defines the times. But times change, and the big band sound that filled Vermont's dance halls through the early post-war years was giving way to other forms of entertainment.
The nightlife in Burlington in the 50s was pretty lively, and there's a lot of music, a lot of dancing and things like that.
The Black Cat was a very excellent restaurant, indeed, and the younger owner of the Black Cat decided that a little nightclub affair would be nice upstairs, so they put in a dance floor in the second story. But if you went in there on a Thursday night, 10 to 1, you couldn't get a place to eat because the doctors are all there, night on the town. And the upstairs became sort of a razzmatazz place. It wasn't as high class as the first floor. In other words, the twain never seemed to meet there. The doctors never went up to dance, and I don't think the dancers ever came down to eat.
Live music was king, and it came in all forms. High-stepping high school marching bands were as competitive as any team sport in Vermont, and the work of young musicians culminated in an all-state music festival.
What did you play for an instrument?
Clarinet.
Did you really?
We'd go to Burlington and stay in private homes and play at the auditorium.
The kids would practice all year long in their own schools all over Vermont. And then in the springtime, they would get together and they would all come to Burlington, and they were put up in the homes of people here in Burlington.
The music festival parade was always a big event.
A lot of music had to be played because people on the sidewalks didn't just like to see a band marching to a marching beat. They wanted to hear music. So we all to this day know Washington Post, Stars and Stripes.